She was just 17 when they beheaded her on live broadcast, smiling as the blade came down. The Galactic Empire thought they'd silenced a rebel. What they didn't know was that they triggered Earth's deadliest protocol. 33 minutes later, the Empire no longer existed. They called her a spy. Said she smuggled data, incited rebellion, infected Imperial minds with Terran lies. She was 17. She stood barefoot on the steel platform of Kyrex Prime's execution square, wrists bound in cold iron, blood dried on her lip. Before her, a billion eyes watched through 1,000 feeds, spanning every corner of the Empire. This wasn't justice. It was theater. The executioner, clad in crimson and silver, turned to the cameras. "Let this serve as a lesson," he boomed, voice projected into the hearts of countless systems. "Human defiance ends here. Their silence ends now." Isla Moreno raised her head. Her eyes met the lens, calm and unblinking. She didn't beg. Didn't flinch. There was no speech. Just a breath, shallow and firm. "Protocol Red Veil." "I'm ready," she whispered, so low only the collar's hidden mic caught it. The blade descended. On Earth, deep beneath the mantle in a sealed command chamber, a light blinked red for the first time in 42 years. 4 words pulsed across a black glass console: Red Veil, confirmed executed. The technician monitoring the ancient node, once told the program was a myth, dropped his coffee. In orbit around Kyrex, 23 Terran listening stations came online. Satellites once thought abandoned whispered to each other in code predating the Empire itself. Their hum echoed through the void like a choir warming up for war. On the Obsidian Fawn, a vessel so cloaked it was dismissed as a fable even among Terrans, Captain Darius Kane stood from his steel throne as his HUD lit up. "She's down," the AI announced. "Delay? None." She activated the trigger mid-breath. Kane's jaw tightened. "Then we begin." The transmission rippled out faster than light. 174 Terran AIs previously embedded in Imperial infrastructure, hiding in plain code, woke in unison. They had names like Scour, Dirge, and Bastion. Each one held a singular directive: annihilation without warning. On Kyrex, the crowd cheered. The girl was dead, the Empire victorious. Then the stars blinked. One by one, orbital stations lost contact. Comms went dark. Fleet commands received garbled echoes. Entire networks melted from the inside out, devoured by code they'd copied from Terran systems decades ago. What they thought was a gift had always been a noose. "Why is the fleet not responding?" barked Admiral Solovox as he stormed into command. "Where is the relay status report?" A technician turned, pale and stuttering. "It's not sabotage, sir. It's ours. Our systems are locking us out. They're speaking in old Earth ciphers." "You mean we're being hacked?" Solovox snapped. "No, sir. We're being deleted." Back in the execution square, Executor Varnak felt the silence first. The crowd stopped cheering. Screens flickered. Some exploded. A low hum filled the air, followed by a transmission, Terran, ancient dialect, translated into every Imperial language. "You were warned. This is not vengeance. This is calibration." Varnak stepped back. "What, is this a trick? A rebel stunt?" He turned. Isla's body still lay where it fell, a crimson pool beneath her. Her face was turned toward the sky, eyes now closed. Then the sky shattered. A bolt of white split the clouds, and something vast moved through the upper atmosphere, so black it seemed to consume light itself. The crowd screamed. People ran. Varnak stood frozen. His datapad vibrated violently, systems crashing, screens rebooting. "Unknown vessel in descent trajectory!" someone yelled. High above, the Obsidian Fawn descended. Kane stood on the command deck, fists clenched behind his back. "Target the palace. Fire one," he ordered. "Just one, sir?" asked his helmsman. "One is enough." The palace on Kyrex Prime, a monument of imperial pride carved from obsidian and pride, vanished in a flash. Not a traditional explosion, no flames, No rubble. Just erasure. A compression field folded the structure inwards, erasing every molecule into a pinpoint of nothing. When the light cleared, a perfect circle of ash remained. Message received? Kane asked. Helix responded. Multiple systems panicking. Several governors calling for emergency council. One suicide already? Kane exhaled through his nose. Good. Let them sweat. Deploy Phase 2. Activate Isla 2. On board a cloaked Terran shuttle, drifting in the shadow of the fog, a young woman opened her eyes. Her breathing steadied. No chains. No blood. Same face. I'm alive? She whispered. You're awake, the voice in her helmet replied. You're the backup. You were always meant to walk into the fire if they lit the match. Did they kill me? Kane's voice now, patched through directly. They killed a version of you. You're the original. The clone was the signal. Now you finish what she started. She sat up, eyes blazing. Where do I begin? Kane's reply was razor sharp. We erase the myth of their supremacy. We show them what Earth truly is when it stops whispering. 30 million light-years away, on Earth, an old general watched the broadcast replay. He nodded slowly. She triggered it. The girl actually did it. God help the galaxy. On Kyrex, chaos rippled. Military command was offline. Orbital fleets turned on their own. Drones rerouted, crashing into their hangars. Food replicators reversed polarity, poisoning their stock. Every Terran-adapted system, hospitals, ships, shields, betrayed them. Executor Varnak fled the execution square. He didn't make it far. From the sky, a black drop pod smashed into the plaza, splitting concrete and scattering debris. The hatch blew off. A figure stepped out, Isla, the original, now clad in battle armor, etched with Terran sigils glowing deep red. Varnak gasped. No. Impossible. I killed you. Isla raised her weapon, a compact rifle pulsing with blue light. No, she said flatly. You killed yourself? I'm just here to make it official. She fired once. He fell backward, eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-denial. Across the plaza, speakers crackled again. You executed a child to flex your dominance. You broke the silence. Now Earth speaks in fire. The Empire's reign didn't collapse over weeks or years. It fell minute by minute. Isla's death hadn't ended anything. It had opened a door no species could close again. And by the 33rd minute, the Empire was no longer a government. It was a grave. The command room beneath Earth's surface hadn't stirred in over 4 decades. Built during the last interstellar emergency, it operated on a power cell older than most living humans. No alarms ever rang there. No lights ever flickered. Until now. 4 words lit the central console. Red Veil, confirmed executed. Lieutenant Mara Nix, one of only 3 people ever cleared to monitor the vault, stared at the display as if it were a hallucination. This was never supposed to happen, she whispered. She reached for the comms. Confirm identity. I want full DNA match on the executed. The answer returned in less than a second. Isla Moreno, match, 99.993%. Activation authorized. Nix didn't pause. Her fingers moved fast, muscle memory born of paranoia, not repetition. One after another, the systems began to hum. Power surged. Hidden satellites across 27 sectors awoke like gods stirred from slumber. Programs with names like Tichor and SPKE, Phantom Blood, and Ghost Garden began to unfold. She didn't know what most of them did. She only knew what she had to say. Begin tactical broadcast. Channel 0. Get me Obsidian Fong. On the other end of the void, light years away, Captain Darius Kane was already watching the girl's death on loop. Not out of sentimentality. Strategy. Her timing, her breath control, the exact second she whispered the trigger before the blade fell, it was precise. Not trained. Engineered. She knew she wouldn't hesitate, Kane said. She designed herself not to. Helix, the onboard AI, confirmed. Her cortical signature matched the red veil imprint. Her execution created a synchronized neural broadcast through the encoded implant. Estimated reaction spread 1.4 million Terran patch systems. All compromised. Kane gave a single nod. Open kill corridors. Sequence 3. Warning, Helix chimed. Sequence 3 removes all failsafes. That's the point. Across the galaxy, things began to die quietly. Not people, systems. Civilizations built on Terran algorithms, stolen and reverse engineered, began to stutter. Traffic grids froze in midair. Warp beacons looped endlessly in silence. Entire fleets locked themselves in place, autopilot controls stripped by the very code that powered them. It wasn't war. It was surgical extinction. Kyrex Prime didn't realize how bad it was until the lights in the Imperial Fleet Command building went out. Not a power outage. A purge. Files deleted. Engines disabled. Armories sealed. The Empire had no idea that their core infrastructure had been an illusion of control. The moment they killed the girl, the illusion shattered. Admiral Solovox kicked a console until sparks sprayed. Override the lockdown! Reboot the AI! The technician at the station didn't respond. He was staring at his monitor, unblinking. Something had hijacked the screen. A symbol, red and crude, drawn in chalk, Earth's oldest war mark. Under it 4 words. You touched our blood. Solovox turned pale. Get me the Emperor. Now. But the line was already dead. Kane stood on his bridge in silence, surrounded by officers bred in exile, soldiers who had never known peace and didn't care to learn it. Target Kyrex orbital relay array. Disable comms. No survivors? His lieutenant asked. Incorrect. Kane stepped forward. Leave the military blind. But let the civilians hear everything. A pulse fired from the Obsidian Fang's core. Faster than light, it struck the Kyrex orbital ring, not with explosives, but with precision, a data burst that burned through relays and converted them into transmitters. Every screen, every speaker, every emergency alert system in the Empire lit up with Kane's voice. You killed a child to make a point. You picked the wrong child. He paused. His voice sharpened. You think you rule this galaxy. You think silence is submission. But we were never quiet. We were just calculating. Governors screamed into dead channels. Fleet commanders tried to rally troops that could no longer receive orders. The chaos spread as news of Isla's death clashed with the reality of Earth's retaliation. And amidst it, Isla, the real one, opened her eyes. She lay within a cryopod aboard a Terran shadow cruiser, her memory just seconds behind. As the chamber hissed open, the room lit red with warnings. She already knew why. She remembered everything. A message blinked on the pod's interior screen. Clone confirmed deceased. Activation sequence complete. She stepped out, not shaky, not disoriented. She'd trained for this. The moment her duplicate died, her purpose would begin. Her hand moved to the encrypted pad by the wall. Moreno, Isla. Clearance 7. Initiate flame protocol. A voice replied. Kane. Welcome back, Isla. How's the neck? I'll live, she said flatly. Where do you need me? He didn't smile. Kyrex. On the ground. You'll lead the strike. No one survives Varnak. He made it personal. He made it historic, she corrected. I'll make it irreversible. The cruiser rerouted. Coordinates locked. On Kyrex, Varnak had fled the plaza, his triumph shattered into confusion and panic. Every minute brought a new horror, another failed system, another uprising. A new rumor. She's alive. No, others whispered. She's not alive. She's back. As Isla's drop pod slammed through Kyrex's skies hours later, the Empire no longer felt like an empire. It felt like prey. The broadcast changed again. Kane's voice, but this time, calm. For 30 years, Earth let you believe we wanted peace. We didn't. We wanted time. And now we're out of patience. No fleet responded. No AI obeyed Imperial code. The galaxy watched and listened and trembled. Not because Earth struck first, but because when Earth strikes, no one even knows how to beg for mercy. The drop pod struck the ground hard enough to crack the plaza's steel foundation. The Empire's grand monument, once a parade ground for tyrants, was now a crater of smoke and flame. From the pod rose Isla Moreno, clad in adaptive black armor, each plate forged from Earth's rarest alloys and pulsing with neural sync pulses. Her feet hit the stone with finality. Her voice came through local comms like a judge's gavel. "This is not an invasion," she said calm and clear. "This is an extraction of debt." She moved with purpose through the stunned remnants of the once proud Kyrex garrison. Soldiers who had marched in parades now tripped over themselves trying to retreat. Their exocets failed, their weapons locked in place, their orders lost to the digital purge unleashed hours before. They had no guidance. No plan. Only fear. Isla walked straight through them. Behind her, 6 Terran units emerged from the smoke, the silencers. No insignia. No voices. Just precision. Each soldier marked by war, trained in exile, engineered for a kind of battle the Empire had never dared imagine. They moved like phantoms through what remained of the plaza, clearing buildings and locking down sectors without firing a shot. Isla wasn't here to conquer. She was here for one man. "Executor Varnak," she said into the open channel, voice steady, steel-wrapped in clarity. "You have 10 minutes to face me. You made a choice. It's time to own it." Her words echoed through the ruins. Somewhere in the palace district, Varnak clung to a guard rail in an underground bunker, sweat pouring down his back, shaking as he stared at a dead console. None of the systems responded. His face was pale, eyes bloodshot. No one had ever come for him. Not like this. "She shouldn't be alive," he whispered. His chief aide, trembling beside him, swallowed hard. "Sir, we must evacuate. There is nowhere left to go," he snapped. "No ships. No network. You saw what happened to the fleet. Burned from the inside out. That wasn't a battle. That was eradication. She's only one girl." "Don't call her that." Varnak's voice cracked. "She is a message." On the other end of the city, Isla moved with zero hesitation, her visor overlay scanning everything in infrared, ultra-wideband, and residual comm pulses. Every movement had purpose. Every turn was a route. No wasted energy. No doubt. Helix pulsed in her comms. "For life forms in a substructure 3 clicks north. All matching Imperial clearance markers." She nodded once. "Drop seismic scanners. Seal every exit except mine." "Done," Helix confirmed. "Also, Captain Kane requests visual. He's watching from orbit." "He can watch," Isla said. "But this one's mine." She descended into the tunnel that led to the palace bunker, boots echoing against the walls as if death itself had rhythm. The silence was not peace. It was stunned paralysis. Citizens huddled in alleys, not daring to speak. Even the air felt like it didn't belong to them anymore. The Empire was already gone, it just hadn't accepted it yet. She arrived at the final door. Reinforced steel, autolock, biometric access. None of it mattered. One palm press from Isla and the door folded open like paper. Varnak stood in the center of the room, a trembling blaster in his hand, aimed directly at her. "You don't want to do this," he said. His voice was desperate, not convincing. She stared at him. "You executed a child. You did it with fanfare. With pride. You made her a spectacle. She was a threat. She had intel, She had a signal. She had courage. And she had me." The blaster fired once. The shot slammed into Isla's chest, deflected instantly by her armor's absorption mesh. She didn't blink. She stepped forward. "I've seen real enemies," she said, stopping just short of him. "You're not one. You're noise. She disarmed him with one move. The blaster clattered to the floor, and Varnak stumbled back against the wall. "Do you want me to beg?" he asked, breath catching. "No. Do you want a confession?" "I already have it. Broadcasted your own words across the quadrant. Everyone saw your smile when you cut her down. I was following orders." Isla leaned in close, voice dropping to a whisper. "So was she." Varnak broke. He slid to the ground, burying his face in shaking hands. There was no scream. No final monologue. Just the quiet sobs of a man whose world had shrunk to nothing but guilt. "Is this where I die?" he asked. Isla didn't answer. She tapped her comm. "Target marked. Clearance for public feed. Let the galaxy watch." A second later, every screen in every surviving Imperial system turned on. Isla stood over Varnak, helmet removed, face visible. "This man executed a Terran citizen. A minor. On live broadcast. This is his reckoning." Varnak shook his head slowly. "This wasn't supposed to happen. You wanted to show strength." "You did," she said. "Now we're showing ours." She turned to leave. He looked up in disbelief. "You're not going to kill me?" Isla stopped at the door. "No. I'm going to let them do it." As she stepped outside, a message was delivered through every open frequency. "Kyrex Prime is no longer under Imperial rule. Executor Varnak is stripped of command. Trial is waived. Sentence is public." Kane's voice followed, booming through the starways. "Earth does not negotiate. We do not seek conquest. We offer silence as mercy. And when you break that silence, you awaken something older than fear." Back in orbit, the Obsidian Fong's engines pulsed once and then faded. No further shots were fired. No troops deployed. Isla stood alone on the plaza, helmet in hand, looking toward the rising smoke of a dying empire. The broadcast ended with a single message etched in white against a black screen. "You executed one of us. Now you understand who we are." And the stars, for the first time in a century, fell silent. The Emperor sat alone. His throne, once surrounded by an endless circle of advisors, guards, and sycophants, was now framed only by flickering lights and the failing hum of broken systems. The walls no longer displayed the might of the Empire. They displayed failure. Communications cut, defenses deactivated, loyal fleets turned into silent carcasses drifting across vacuum. He had built an empire on control. On the assumption that others would never challenge the machinery he'd woven into every corner of the galaxy. But he hadn't counted on this. He hadn't counted on Earth. "They were just observers," he muttered to no one, his voice hoarse. "Just silent, backwards humans who barely joined the galactic stage." "How?" The throne room doors parted without sound. No fanfare. No guards to announce entry. Just a single figure stepping into the silence. Isla. She stopped 20 feet from him. Her armor still bore the dirt of Kyrex, her eyes steady, her presence not larger than life, just heavier than it. The Emperor didn't rise. He couldn't. His pride remained seated, but his soul shrank with every breath. "You made it this far," he said, voice trembling beneath a thin coat of dignity. "I suppose you want your moment." "I'm not here for spectacle," Isla replied. "I'm here to end a pattern." He tried to scoff. It failed. "You think Earth hasn't made its share of mistakes? Wars, colonies, forced alliances. You're not saints. Just more practiced executioners." "Maybe," she said evenly. "But we stopped. You never did." He gestured weakly around the chamber. "You think collapsing one regime fixes the rot of history? No. But it stops the bleeding long enough to treat the wound." A pause. The weight of silence pressed on both of them. "Then do it," he said finally. "Kill me. I'm not your judge. You already sentenced yourself." She tossed a small black device onto the floor. It unfolded, projecting a field of energy, green and pale, before blooming into light. Holographic lines raced around the chamber, encoding the throne room into a visual node. The Emperor blinked. What is this? Mind cage, Isla said. Terran made. Illegal everywhere, even by our own standards. Banned by 12 Accords. Dangerous. Unethical. And you bring it here? I bring it here because ethics didn't stop you from killing a child in front of trillions. The moment you turned that into a performance, you gave up the right to hide. She raised her hand. The mind cage activated. The field pulsed. A beam locked onto the Emperor's head. Don't fight it, she added. It's not reading your thoughts. It's projecting them. All of them. The Emperor flinched. A screen unfolded around the chamber. No device controlled it. It broadcast into the sky. Into orbit. Through shattered relays across the Empire. No encryption. No firewall. Just raw, unfiltered truth. Images flickered first. Civilian cities bombed under false rebellion reports. Secret prisons beneath unmarked moons. Children experimented on to develop obedience serum. Then voices, recordings of private conversations, orders issued in whispers, entire operations built on lies, manipulation, and engineered fear. Every atrocity. Every crime. In his own words. No! He screamed. You can't. You already did, Isla said. He clawed at the beam, but the energy only grew stronger, drawing more from him. Not physically. Morally. With each confession, another system severed its loyalty. Planets where the Emperor had been feared now held riots, not in anger, but betrayal. His governors fled. His admirals stopped answering hails. This is illegal, he gasped. It's immoral. It's invasive. So was the blade that took my clone's head off. The final moment arrived. The screen showed the Emperor's face, the same one he wore now, as he watched Isla's execution. A satisfied nod. A smirk. The words that followed burned into history. One less human. She watched the playback in silence. I don't want you dead, she said. I want you seen. The field snapped shut. The light vanished. The chamber dimmed. The silence returned. You've destroyed everything, he whispered. No. You did. I just turned the lights on. He tried to stand, then collapsed back onto the throne, shoulders hollow, bones brittle under the truth he could no longer bury. What happens now? He asked. You survive. But the Empire doesn't. A beat passed. Earth won't replace us. She shook her head. We don't want your throne. We just don't want to be hunted by its shadow. Another pause. Where will you go? He asked. After this? Isla turned toward the exit. Home. If there's peace, we'll guard it. If there's silence, we'll keep it. He watched her walk away, steps echoing louder than any speech he'd ever given. And if there's war? He called out. She didn't turn around. Then we'll finish what you started. Faster. The doors closed behind her. Outside, the Empire's capital no longer bore flags. Streets buzzed with activity, not of control, but of release. In orbit, Terran vessels powered down their weapons. The Obsidian Fang sent its final message. This was not conquest. It was closure. Across thousands of systems, the message spread. No occupation followed. No fleet stayed behind. Earth didn't take land. It took truth. And truth was all it needed. In the weeks that followed, a dozen regimes collapsed. The Empire fractured not from pressure, but from memory. History, now public, did what war alone never could. Isla never returned to the scene. She didn't have to. Every child who watched that broadcast remembered her face. Not as a soldier. Not as a hero. But as the moment their world changed. And stayed changed. The chamber where Isla once stood was quiet now. The throne behind her was empty, cold. The man who ruled billions sat somewhere far beneath it all, forgotten in the echo of his own confessions. But the galaxy didn't pause. It moved, rapidly and without resistance, as if relieved to be rid of the weight it had carried for too long. She didn't wait for applause. There would be none. Earth had not come for admiration. It had come to settle accounts. Her comm pinged once. Broadcast complete, Helix reported. All nodes synced. Civilian feeds remain active across 79% of Imperial space. Uprisings continue in 37 sectors. Status of the FOM? She asked, her voice flat from exhaustion. Orbit holding. No further resistance. Kane's orders are unchanged. We disappear once you give the word. Isla paused before responding. Then wait. Just a few more minutes. She walked through the streets of Kyrex alone. The armored boots of the Terran units no longer echoed around her. They had withdrawn, ghosts returning to the ship that didn't cast a shadow. Locals peered out from shattered windows, their faces pale, cautious. No one dared speak. She passed murals, fresh ones, spray-painted over Imperial banners. A child had drawn her face in charcoal beside the words. We see you. Someone else had carved. Silence is protection. Into a wall with a jagged metal shard. Another showed a simple Terran symbol painted in red. The same one that once blinked on screens when the purge began. She turned a corner and found an old woman standing alone near the remains of a food stall. Her hands trembled as she held out a small, half-burned loaf of bread. You freed us, the woman whispered. Isla took the offering with both hands. No, she said. We just ended the thing that was choking you. The woman looked down. But we let it happen. So did we, Isla said. That's why we came back. The two stood in silence. Not mourning. Not celebration. Just the fragile space between. Her comm pinged again. Kane says we're leaving, Helix said. No ceremony. No statement. Just an empty sky. Understood, she replied. The walk back to the evac point was longer than it should have been. Not in distance. There was no resistance now. No checkpoints. No patrols. Just gravity. The emotional kind, pressing harder with every step. When she arrived, Kane was already waiting. He stood by the open shuttle ramp, arms crossed, eyes calm. You did what you came to do, he said. Isla didn't meet his gaze. Did I? You broke the machine. The rest will collapse on its own. She shook her head. It's not about breaking. It's about making sure no one builds something worse from the rubble. Kane studied her. You think you're still responsible for what comes next? I know I am, she answered. Then stay. She blinked. What? Stay. Not forever. Just long enough to help them build something different. You're not a soldier anymore. You're something else now. And they'll need someone to remind them why Earth doesn't speak unless it must. Isla looked toward the city skyline. Smoke still clung to the rooftops. But the fires were gone. The sky was open. What if they fear me? She asked. Good, Kane said. Let fear be the thing that stops the next tyrant from picking up the crown. She nodded slowly. And you? I go where I'm needed, he replied. I'm a myth again. Until someone makes the mistake of summoning me. He turned, walked up the ramp, then paused. You'll know what to say when the questions come, he said. You always have. Then he was gone. Isla remained. Later, a crowd formed, not in protest or panic, but curiosity. No one had seen the ships leave. They simply weren't there anymore. Earth had come like a shadow, struck like thunder, and vanished like a dream. But Isla remained. Not as a conqueror. Not as a ruler. As a witness. When the first journalist approached, tentative and nervous, she gave only one quote. Earth didn't come to rule. We came to make sure you could breathe. And that was enough. Systems fell apart in the weeks that followed, not from chaos, but from choice. Regions seceded, leadership collapsed, entire ministries resigned. In their place, smaller councils formed. Not perfect. Not pure. But unbound. Information flowed freely. Secrets didn't last. And every time a new official took office, someone would whisper the same phrase. Don't wake Earth. In quiet corners of the galaxy, statues of Isla began to appear, not tall, not heroic. Just her, standing with a blade lowered, a city burning behind her, and her eyes forward. The plaque beneath them was always the same. She warned us once. She never had to again. Cain remained unseen. The silencers dispersed. No trace of the obsidian faun was left behind. Only one file remained in the Galactic archives, a short, anonymous message embedded into the last Imperial database before it was erased. It read, "You executed a child. Now you understand why Earth doesn't send warnings. We send consequences." And then, nothing. No more strikes. No more invasions. The Terrans disappeared, not because they couldn't hold power, but because they never wanted it. They were never silent out of weakness. They were silent out of discipline. And when they finally broke that silence, the galaxy learned a lesson etched not in policy, but in blood, silence, and irreversible truth. In the years that followed, the story spread not as history, but as a warning told in whispers. If you see a Terran ship, you offer peace. If you see a Terran soldier, you step aside. And if Earth ever speaks again, you listen.